Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Japan, Japanese language English subs, released in the year 2003, directed by Yoshihiko Satsumi, and this film is called 2LDK. So 2LDK is about two aspiring actresses. They're living together in this very luxurious apartment, and they're auditioning for the same part. Now, initially it starts off as just an annoyance, but then pretty soon the two of them get on each other's nerves as their stress in order to get this part is starting to take over, and now things are starting to get out of control. So what happens on this evening is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on 2LDK. I didn't know too much about this movie, but I thought as though I had nothing to lose because it's only an hour and 10 minutes long, and so that's a very, very short film. So if it was going to be a bad movie, then it wasn't going to chew up much of my time. And after watching this movie with very limited outside influence and expectations, I will say that there are moments that I liked about the film, but unfortunately there's a massive issue that I have with the movie that I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about the movie is that if you've ever lived with someone, you will understand the feelings of these characters. And I thought as though the annoyance that they're getting on each other's nerves, I thought to myself, okay, that's relatable. And so they're both trying to get this part, and although they're friends and initially they like each other, ultimately what you want in life is going to take over, and your friend is ultimately going to become your enemy. And so the slow progression from friends to enemy was actually quite interesting, and I thought, alright, well, as far as an hour and 10 minutes is concerned, I thought that idea for the most part worked, and as the situation escalates, it goes down and takes past the point of no return and escalates into something that I'm not going to give away, but I thought, alright, well, this has just got out of control. This is a very little small situation that hasn't been addressed, and ultimately now it's out of their control, it's snowballed. And so I like that. And I also like the acting. I thought the acting was quite decent, and the way that it told its story was quite interesting. At the start of the film it's narrated, so you're actually getting an insight into their thoughts, and so it was something a little bit different. And so it wasn't giving you exposition as far as them detailing what was going on, but the thoughts and the narration inside the head are thoughts that everyone goes through. And so I thought that was actually quite interesting. I thought the script worked fairly well, and it's definitely a movie that is more of a novelty. It's a film that's not really going to capture you and want to make you repeat viewings, and it's not a cinematic film, but it is a movie that is done in a very small time frame, and for the most part I thought it was interesting, because I always wanted to know how far this rivalry was actually going to go. And when you actually realise it, you think to yourself, okay, wow, this is an extreme situation that could have actually been solved if it was addressed earlier. And so it's like a ticking time bomb, and unfortunately that wick that is going towards the dynamite is never put out in time, and then it explodes at the end. If I have issues with 2LDK, I will say that although it's very well made for the budget it had, apparently it only had 8 days to complete, and I thought, alright, well, that is something to applaud, because what they've churned out is a movie that's worth watching, but unfortunately it just doesn't have enough content to actually get it over the finish line. And that's a very odd thing to say, considering it's only an hour and 10 minutes, but I thought as though the time was dragging, and it felt like it was a lot longer than it was, because ultimately this would have been a lot better as a very short film, because it could have got to all the bases a lot faster and it wouldn't have exhausted all of its material. And unfortunately that's exactly what this movie does. I felt as though it was repeating the same thing over and over, and so you have these two women who are competing for the one position, and they start to bicker with each other, they start to get on each other's nerves, and it covers the bases very quickly, but then it's just a rehash, and it's just going on, and you feel as though it's deja vu right up until the end. And so I thought as though it wasn't as well planned out as it really should have been, but thankfully it's not too long, but it just feels like it's a lot longer than it is. And so I will say that's the biggest criticism, and ultimately it's what brings the movie down. But as I said, it's very interesting to see how these two go about their day-to-day lives, their thoughts, that you get an inside look at because of the narration. I thought that was actually well done, so they don't really have to say much in order to get an impression of what they're actually feeling, and I thought that was actually pretty good. And I thought as though it was a bit of fun to see how the situation was escalating, but as I said, just not enough content to really carry it over the finish line. It would have been better as a 20 minutes short instead of an hour and 10 minutes, because I just thought as though it exhausted its point. And unfortunately after that it just becomes a little bit of tedium, and so that was something that is the biggest criticism. But pushing that aside, if you want a psychological study into two very tormented people, then I would say 2LDK is worth watching, and as a result of that I'm going to give this film 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.